everyone. Welcome back to Underreported Stories, where I cover the news that CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News fail to report on or don't report on enough. And today I gotta say, I'm an antsy queen. I am 1 week away from my wedding. I should say wedding weekend, because technically I'm not a week away from the wedding. But, family starts to come in, and my friends come in next Thursday. My family gets to town on Sunday. So it all starts really soon. Don't get me wrong, I'm so excited. But I'm at that point where there's nothing left to physically, I guess I should just admit control, but physically do. There's no more tasks or anything. So all the things that I spend my time worrying about or keeps me up at night are things that are completely out of my control. Like the weather, especially with this hurricane and my family being from Florida and my sister being in Houston. It's just there's so many little details where I'm I'm freaked out. I'm also concerned about my skin on my wedding day. Am I going to wake up with a zit that morning? It's just all really stupid things, but it is keeping me up at night, I will tell you that. And so I am an antsy queen. Honestly, I'm just really ready for it to be I'm ready for it to happen. I'm ready for the moment to be here, and I'm just excited. I don't know, if you're already married, will you drop me a comment and let me know what your favorite moment of your wedding was and what you would do if you could redo it? What is one piece of advice you would give to myself, a soon-to-be bride? So I can't wait to hear you guys' stories. That's actually really fun. Before we move on into our docket, I just want to let you guys know that if you want to see a first look of my wedding, aka you want pictures, videos, anything like that first, please be sure to join the Story Seekers group on Instagram. It's completely free. It's really easy. You'll just go to my Instagram. It's at the Chrissy Clark. And there's when you go to my profile, it'll say Story Seekers broadcast channel. Just click on it, join the community. It'll send you a little notification just on Instagram when I post something like polls or asking you guys questions, or I was sending funny complaints this morning in a video. It just allows me to build community more regularly. Instagram is my favorite app, so it's just the most realistic place where I'm actually going to be spending time. So yeah, if you'd like to be a part of the community, I think that's the best way to get involved. Although dropping emojis, commenting on whatever platform you're watching this on, that also helps. I'm definitely there. I am just the most on Instagram. But speaking of Story Seekers, actually, this morning I was posting in the group chat about the Eric Adams indictment. You guys, this is freaking nuts. So if you somehow missed this, Manhattan prosecutors unsealed criminal indictments against New York City Mayor Eric Adams. He was indicted for bribery conspiracy, fraud, and soliciting illegal foreign campaign donations. So there's a 5-count indictment laid out by Manhattan prosecutors that say Eric Adams illegally funneled money to his mayoral campaign from the Turkish government. In exchange for that money, Eric Adams was going to approve a Turkish consulate in Midtown Manhattan and then use his connections at the fire department to expedite the building getting approved and all of this stuff. So quite wild there. And then if you remember, this is kind of where the second, maybe more underreported layer of this story came in. Eric Adams has been both anti-Biden and anti-progressive. He's a very incompetent moderate, I'll say. And when you look at his policies and how he ran the city, I think incompetent moderate is a very good way to describe him. But in the age of politicians weaponizing the justice system, I asked the Story Seekers group this question. It reads, did Biden sic the feds on Adams for Adams' anti-Biden comments? And I gave the group 3 options. Absolutely, no way, Adams is definitely guilty, and maybe, but I want more info. And the results are in. You guys think Biden absolutely sicked the feds on Eric Adams for having the balls to speak out. So that's pretty crazy. If you're not in the Story Seekers group, if you don't use Instagram, but you want to be kind of part of this polling research, let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think Adams is guilty? Do you think Biden sicked the DOJ on him? Do you just want more info in general? Please let me know if you are watching on Facebook, X, YouTube, or Rumble. All right, We've rambled on enough. Let's get into our docket for today. So here's what I've got on the agenda in terms of underreported stories. CNN has accused South Carolina of prosecuting a woman for her miscarriage, which would be absolutely insane if it was even close to the truth, but it's not. So I will debunk that story for you. I also want to expose the Air Force for being weird and having a bunch of racist goals that we've always been suspicious of. We've always had an inkling of understanding from leaked memos and whatnot, but it is officially exposed. We have the unsealed documents of what's going on behind closed doors with this DEI push in the Air Force. We also have a story about thousands of staff members for Congress members having their information compromised because they used their government emails to sign up for dating and corn websites. Truly the dumbest among us. And you don't want to miss my thoughts on Jimmy Kimmel's wife's rant about Donald Trump. So, without further ado, let's get into the 5 underreported stories that you need to know. And the 5 underreported stories that you need to know are brought to you by my merch line, Based Apparel. If you don't know what based is the opposite of woke. It means you're based in logic, based in truth. All around, based people are awesome people. They're the kind of people I like to be around. And I always say this, I really hate coming off as asking for your money, but ultimately I am an independent journalist and I could have created a paywall, I could have created a donations box, but I truly love these hats. I created something that I personally like to wear, and I figured, why don't I just do that to you guys? I actually make less money doing this than I would doing maybe behind the paywall kind of content. So I'm going to be transparent with you guys. Buying this stuff really helps the show, and if you want to fund my independent journalism career, please, please, please consider purchasing from basedinlogicapparel.com. It's linked in the show notes. All right, let's get into our first story. So, CNN claims that a young woman was accused of murder after suffering a miscarriage. But like I said in the docket, that's not even close to the whole story. Let me show you how CNN framed this story, and then we'll get into what actually happened. CNN poses this as, she was accused of murder after losing her pregnancy. South Carolina woman now tells her story. It says Amari Marsh had just finished her junior year at South Carolina State University in May of 23 when she received a text message from a law enforcement officer. The officer said, "Sorry it has taken this long for paperwork to come back, but I finally have the final report and wanted to see if you and your boyfriend could meet me Wednesday afternoon for a follow-up." Marsh understood that the report was related to a pregnancy loss she'd experienced that March. During her second trimester, Marsh unexpectedly gave birth in the middle of the night while on a toilet in her off-campus apartment. She remembered the screaming and the panicking and said the bathroom was covered in blood. "I couldn't breathe," she said. The next day, when Marsh woke up in the hospital, she said, a law enforcement officer asked her questions. Then a few weeks later, she said, she received a call saying she could collect her daughter's ashes. At that point, she said she didn't know she was being criminally investigated. Yet 3 months after her loss, Marsh was charged with murder and homicide by child abuse, law enforcement records show. She spent 22 days at the Orangeburg-Calhoun Regional Detention Center, where she was initially held without bond, facing 20 years to life in prison. This August, 13 months after she was released from jail, the house arrest with an ankle monitor, Marsh was cleared by a grand jury. Her case will not proceed to trial. And the way CNN proceeded to frame this was that the evil pro-life state of South Carolina is going to come for women, and if you dare have a miscarriage at no fault of your own, then the police are going to investigate you for murder. But that's not what happened. Like, here are the actual facts I went through. I read the whole thing, and then I went and followed up with the police reports. This is what it says, okay? So Amari Marsh, like I said, a junior in college when she got a positive pregnancy test. Way too young, really sad. She then admits, at the time, she did not seek out prenatal care or go to the doctor to confirm whether that pregnancy test was valid. She had gotten her period, not to be too graphic, after she got the positive pregnancy test, so she just assumed she wasn't pregnant instead of going and doing the normal thing, or the responsible thing, I should say, and going to double check that. And so she just basically refused to acknowledge that she was pregnant So that's the first problem. Then, according to an incident report with the local sheriff's office, Amari Marsh went to Planned Parenthood, a clinic, took the Plan C pill, which is called mifepristone or something like that. It induces an abortion, basically, through an oral pill. And we have heard of so many problematic experiences from taking Plan C abortion pills. They're very much billed as a quick fix and just an easy way to do your abortion, when in actuality, they are incredibly painful. And we recently saw a Georgia woman pass away from complications related to taking this abortion pill. So they're not as easy as they're billed out to be. But I will note there is a caveat to this. Amari denies that she took the pill or even went to Planned Parenthood in the first place. But then weeks later, after her alleged, because the investigator said, oh, she went to Planned Parenthood in January, and then in February, not long after, like I want to say a 2-week window, she started experiencing the very symptoms associated with taking an oral abortion pill. Now, I'm not saying that's exactly what happened. I'm just saying a police report said she had an appointment at a Planned Parenthood. 2 weeks after that alleged appointment that she claimed she was not at, she started having symptoms associated with taking that abortion pill. So, this is a little sad. That's really underdoing it, Chrissy. This is really sad. In the middle of the night in February, she started experiencing extreme abdominal pain. She went to the bathroom and she proceeded to give birth prematurely on her toilet. And I've got to say, that has got to be one of the most traumatic experiences. So as I go on to tell the story, I have to caveat this by saying, I don't think I would ever take the same actions that this woman took. But if I were in a position giving birth on a toilet, I don't know how I would react. So I'm going to caveat that with that. But if I had gotten a positive pregnancy test, I also would have gone to the doctor about it. That's neither here nor there. Back to the story. So Amari Marsh has a premature daughter, gives birth on her toilet, and then proceeds to let her daughter drown in the toilet while her boyfriend's on the phone with 911 operators who are encouraging them to pull the premature child out of the water. She gave birth to a live baby, okay? And so Amari Marsh wasn't investigated for a miscarriage. She was investigated for failing to save her alive child who drowned in a toilet due to, in the worst case scenario, a botched abortion, or in a better case scenario, general neglect from failing to take any precautions after a positive pregnancy test. And the way that CNN bills this as an attack on women's rights and that people are being prosecuted for miscarriages, oh, fuck you. Let's get the facts right before we write dumb headlines, because more people are going to hear the wrong information than the actual facts that I just laid out. So congrats, CNN. You set your dumbass narrative and it's chocked full of lies. This is why no one trusts the media. But this is another example also of the media being like good little allies to the Democrats, because this is what the Democrats want to run on, okay? They know that they could win big in November when they run on abortion and illiteracy of women around abortion and abortion rights. So the media are just being really good allies here by putting this story out. Congratulations, the fix is in. It's so freaking annoying. Anyway, let's move on to our next story. Maybe a little happier, maybe not. So we finally have proof that the Air Force is trying to recruit based on skin color. Now, if you are like me, we've all had our suspicions about this. There have been a ton of leaked internal memos, but we were never able to officially confirm anything until now. There was an organization that sued the Air Force for refusing to cough up FOIA documents. Those are Freedom of Information Act. So documents that should be made readily available to the public. It took them so long, the Air Force, to cough this up that an organization actually had to sue them in order for the Air Force to cough up the documents that they should have given up right away. And now we finally have slideshows and memos that show since 2022, the Air Force has been trying to explicitly reduce the number of white applicants while explicitly trying to bump up the number of diverse racial and gender demographics. So here are the actual slides that we have. One of the slides is labeled AFROTC, white. And you can see on the graph that the percentage of white male ROTC officer applicants was declining from about 60% down to 50% from 2019 to 2023. And then the graph shows how, I hate when the page reloads like that. The graph shows how the Air Force's goal is to reduce the percentage down to approximately 43% by fiscal year 2029. This is the achieved goal, and they want to get into this like mid 40s range. So they're getting closer. And these slides in question also explain that the Air Force is either on track or needs to do more to hit racial and gender quotas in the ROTC's officer applicant pool. You can see, oh my gosh, the ads are just going wild here. You can see that they are trying to bump up the number of ROTC people. I think they're aiming for 25% to be either racially or gender diverse. They're looking for white females to get up to 25% and bring down the number of males. Very interesting. The article reads, for example, with the African American population, the slideshow suggests the Air Force, quote, why is this going berserk? Target the male population through ongoing programs and marketing, and notes it has already met its female goal for ROTC officer applicants, making it a quarter of the ROTC applicants being women. For the American Indian, Asian, and Hispanic applicants, the slideshow says the Air Force is, quote, on track to grow diversity. Included in the slide deck are funding requests for diversity recruiting initiatives, including $500,000, $500,000 for, quote, diversity advertising campaigns. Great, just what we need. More advertisements that make everybody else in the world think that our military is a freaking joke for focusing on Emma having 2 lesbian moms or some shit like that. And then we have $250,000 for influencer engagements. Even as an influencer, if the Army paid me money, I would be like, you guys are wasting your money. This is so dumb. So dumb. I do think that, don't get me wrong, I do think that like influencers are the future of all of this. But in terms of like this, I mean like marketing and media and stuff like that. So I don't want to say I'm opposed to this, but I've seen how the military has spent their money, and it's on very, very far left-wing influencers who are like dressed in military garb, but also being drag queens. It's very interesting. In a separate set of documents from as early as 22, the Air Force outlines its efforts to modify ROTC scholarship programs, which, quote, play an important role in and diversity goals. The Air Force suggests modifying the scholarship models could remove, quote, certain testing barriers to entry for underrepresented groups. So again, this is kind of like the military basically saying, or the Air Force basically saying, hey, we don't think minorities can take these tests and be successful, so we're going to dumb down the tests for certain types of people because, what is it called? It's just another form of racism. Let's be quite honest about what we're watching right here. I do want to clarify something, though, because when we're talking about race, it can be very easy to come across as saying that more diversity means we're less good because of our diversity. And I don't think that's the case. It's not that diversity is making the military weak. It's that prioritizing frivolous characters or characteristics like skin color amid a massive crisis of military-ready men. That is the problem. That's what's problematic. The priorities here are whack, right? Did you know that 3 out of 4 young Americans are ineligible for military service due to obesity, mental health issues, or substance abuse, despite the military making so many exceptions to open their doors to more candidates, be it dumbing down testing, making it easier for, making the exercise regimes easier for people. To me, it just shouldn't matter what the makeup of the military looks like on the outside. It should matter how competent the people in the military are at their jobs. We're not getting to China in a hypothetical war and the Chinese being like, ooh, they're diverse. We definitely can't shoot at them. The fuck is going on here? It doesn't make sense to me. And at the same time, I just want to be clear, like, I wouldn't care if the entire military was made of transgender aliens, if those transgender aliens were keeping the military at its highest capability. That's not what's happening, though, right? My point here is I want to recruit military-ready men or military-ready women for intelligence officer positions or whatever. I'm not understanding the point in making the military less white. That doesn't make us military-ready in any way, shape, or form. It's really quite a dumb idea. But anyway, let's move on to our next story. So if you thought the first abortion story was wild, y'all, so was this one. So Montana Senator Jon Tester, he's a Democrat in Montana, a very, very red state. He is fighting for his life. This is one of the most insanely tight, if not the most insanely tight Senate race in the nation in November, the upcoming election. He decided it would be a good idea to privately meet with a professional pole dancer to talk about abortion rights. This article from the Free Beacon says Tester's public schedule reveals a private meeting with Tiffany Rose and Jamie Gogan on September 19th between two Senate floor sessions. Rose is a Montana resident and a self-described pole dance instructor with tens of thousands of followers on social media. The topic of the meeting appears to be abortion. Rose, this is the stripper, pole dancer, whatever you'd like to call her, in a statement said she is a, quote, new member / volunteer on the Leadership Council for Reproductive Freedom for All. I got to meet Senator Tester and his team, Rose said. I shook his hand and thanked him for his support on this salient freedom issue while visiting D.C. I love that she responded to the Washington Free Beacon knowing full well, not knowing anything about who the Washington Free Beacon is, or the fact that somebody meeting with a pole dancer is probably not the best idea. I think that's freaking funny. It goes on to say, the Leadership Council for Reproductive Freedom for All describes itself as the nation's only cross-state network for state legislators who support reproductive health, rights, and justice. The organization's political arm endorsed Tester in December of 23 and said the senator remains committed to locking the right to abortion into federal law, which is a hot take for somebody who is in a deeply red state. Take away the morality of all of this, the politics of this are horrific. When you're in the home stretch, the final 60-something days of a campaign, every little move matters. Every little meeting matters, and you have to be so calculated with your moves. If a meeting with a pole dancer, if this happened back, let's say in March, still wild, okay? Wild that pole dancers are meeting with senators about abortion rights. I get that. But you could kind of see why that was happening when it was happening, right? This guy wants to meet with local abortion right activists, and so he went on to have this meeting in an attempt to gain favor with people that are going to be voting for him. I get that. To do this right before the election, that is so razor thin. Remember, this was happening last week. I just have to go, what the fuck were you thinking? Truly, what possessed you in your mind to think that that was a good idea? And if you're going to talk to pole dancers 2 months before your election, maybe we should be critically thinking about what other crazy things you're going to allow. Just a thought if you're a Montanan. I don't know. Just a thought. But if you're thinking, what the F about that story, wait till I tell you about what's in your water. That'll also make you go, what the F? But when it comes to hydration, don't just quench your thirst, nourish your body. Freedom 2.0 is a sponsor of Underreported Stories, and thank you so much, Freedom 2.0, for everything you do. If you haven't figured out what Freedom 2.0 is, it's bottled water, but it's not your average bottled water. It's meticulously crafted through an 8-step filtration process featuring reverse osmosis, UV light purification, and the unique 432 hertz healing frequency. The result? Water that's as pure as it gets, delivering energy and hydration without that crash. Say bye-bye to sugary sports drinks and chemically treated waters. Freedom 2.0 is clean, it's pure, and it's exactly what your body needs. Please feel free to use my exclusive link in the show notes to discover the hydration revolution. Your body will thank you for that. All right, let's get into another crazy campaign story. So I don't really follow the nitty-gritty of the campaigns as much as I used to when I was a political reporter at the Federalist, but this one, it just like, it brought me back to the good old days and reminds me why I love to follow this stuff, because it's whack. And it's funny to reveal or to watch people reveal themselves through campaigns like this and whatnot. So the guy in question here, his name is Will Rollins, and he is a Democrat running in a hotly contested Southern California district. And just like Kamala Harris, he's leaning on this prosecutorial record to bolster his tough on crime appearance because he's part of a party that is notoriously soft on crime. So as part of putting on this tough on crime facade, Will Rollins put out an ad showing him in a bunch of law enforcement settings, like chatting with a detective or arguing with a judge. And if you dig a little deeper, it turns out that all the characters in the ad are actors. So the Washington Free Beacon put together a little video showcasing which people are actors in these ads. And if you're in the listening audience, you'll be able to hear it, but I would highly encourage you to come over to YouTube, Rumble, X, or Facebook just to watch this part of the video because it's so funny. All right, roll it.
Will Rollins, a counterterrorism.
This is actor Jason Wright.
Prosecutor, took on ISIS.
This is actor Jeff Deglow.
This guy is such a hypocrite. So he started doing some digging, typical journalism things. And Will Rollins is running his entire campaign on this idea that his Republican opponent has this big failure to respect law enforcement. He's just disrespectful of law enforcement, while completely failing to showcase any record of Will Rollins himself respecting law enforcement. It's odd. And I don't think there's anything wrong with hiring actors to create a political ad. I wouldn't be shocked if most of the political ads do that in some way, shape, or form. I think it's disingenuous at best. That's what I'll call it. But the hypocrisy, if not maybe hypocrisy, but just like dumbass move in all of this was, if you have such a great relationship, Will, with law enforcement, then they should be featured in your ad. Law enforcement should be clamoring to be featured in something that would endorse a candidate that helps them. Oh, wait. That's not what happened at all. What a dope. What an absolute dope. What an absolute fraud this guy is. All right, for time purposes, let's get into our final story. So I know that there's been theories, we'll say, about whether or not politics is this dark, evil, manipulative, deep state dragon, or whether politics is just the most incompetent people in the world banding together to make all of our lives more difficult and spend a shit ton of money in taxes. And this fifth story reminds me that we are just run by incompetent morons. So thousands of Capitol Hill staffers, their information was compromised after these staffers used their government emails on dating and corn websites. Reading here from the Daily Caller, it says nearly 2,000 passwords belonging to congressional staffers have been leaked to the dark web after official email addresses were used for dating sites and adult websites. The information of over 3,100 staff members, including passwords, IP addresses, and information from social media platforms, were found across the dark web by the internet security firm Proton. A growing number of cybersecurity threats have been reported in light of the upcoming presidential election. This is so funny. From Proton, this says in a statement, many of these leaks likely occurred because staffers used their official email addresses to sign up for various services, including high-risk sites such as dating, so think Hinge, Tinder, whatever, Bumble, whatever the hell people are using nowadays, and adult websites, so corn websites, right? This situation highlights a critical security lapse where sensitive work-related emails became entangled with less secure third-party platforms. Oh my gosh. Proton estimates nearly 1 in 5 congressional staffers' information has been leaked online. The effective staffers have been alerted of the threat. Imagine coming to work and being like, hey, remember when you decided to use your government email address to sign up for Hinge, yeah, you've helped start an entire security threat on the hill. On the hill. Good God. Of course, the blame does lie on these staffers for deciding that they're going to sign up for social media accounts or Tinder or Hinge or any of these accounts by using government emails. It's one of the dumbest things I could possibly think of. But also, they need to take responsibilities for their actions, of course. But also, where are the policies in place on the Hill to safeguard people from the decisions made by dumbass 23-year-old staffers? Because this is probably low-level staffers that are doing this. I've lived in D.C. I've been a part of this whole Capitol Hill staffer thing. I didn't work there. I dated someone in it, and I've watched all my friends be a part of it or whatnot. Like, these are dumb people, dumb, horny kids. Like, we've all been there. I'm not saying I was exempt or anybody's exempt or I'm casting down on people, but like, people make dumb decisions. But where is it on Congress to not have any policies in place for this? Please, come on, like, have policies in place to safeguard Congress members in the age of cyber warfare. Think about it. Think about what is happening currently. The Trump campaign has a bunch of phishing scams and potential cyber attacks from Iran. We've seen the Kamala campaign have a bunch of phishing scams and attempts of cyber interference from Russia. There is a growing threat of online cybersecurity warfare, and we don't have a single law in place. You would think that Congress would be proactive instead of reactive, but because they're not, it really fits my theory that we are run by the dumbest people in the world. Truly. I truly believe that with my whole heart. But anyway, today's show is not over. But before we get into our final bonus story, can I ask a favor of you? If you love the show, if you watch me on YouTube, Rumble, X, or Facebook, will you please like, subscribe, and share this video or this channel entirely with a friend? If you're in the listening audience on Apple and Spotify, will you rate this podcast 5-star review? Yeah? And be sure to tag me on Instagram when you're listening to the episode so I can cross-post you, okay? All right, let's get to our little bonus story tonight. So Tuesday night, Jimmy Kimmel handed his show over to his wife/executive producer, Molly McNeary. And she went on this cringy millennial rant against Donald Trump, wearing a cringy millennial shirt that read, "Isn't it past your jail time?" What a weenie. Obviously, I think this is a very ridiculous use of late night TV. I really hate the divisiveness in the culture. Stop bringing up politics on late night TV. Just be funny. It can't even be funny. It'd be one thing if you were talking about politics and being funny, but they're not even funny anymore. But anyway, also, I don't know if you guys know this. I have a lot of beef with Jimmy Kimmel because he tried to he put videos of me on his show. And fuck you, Jimmy Kimmel. You're stupid, and I was right. Anyway, Molly McNeary, she said something very specific about IVF in America and which political parties are protecting it and which aren't. And I want to use this clip as an opportunity to preach some media literacy. So I know my videos have reached the Kimmel family before, so maybe this one will too.
1 in 3 women currently in this country is living under an abortion ban because you stacked our Supreme Court. Thanks to you, women in 21 states can't make their own choice about their own life and their own body. And 10 U.S. states make no exceptions for rape or incest. The party you run so bigly and so beautifully, the party that cares so much about motherhood, just blocked a bill that would protect our access to IVF.
Comments like that, they are intentionally made to outrage you while feeding you lies. So I did a ton of research. Here's the truth about Republicans and Democrats' views for IVF, okay? You guys don't have to agree with this. This is just the facts of the case. So if you have opinions about IVF, feel free to comment them below. This is not an opinion. These are just facts. So Republicans created a bill by Senators Ted Cruz and Katie Britt of Texas and Alabama, respectively, that would ban states from denying IVF, meaning IVF would be allowed nationwide. The IVF Protection Act would never compel any person, organization, or office to provide IVF services. It's not mandated. But if any individual practice opted not to do those IVF services, they would have to be completely private. They would be ineligible for Medicaid funds, or at least partially private, right? But Democrats blocked that bill. And that gave Republicans the opportunity to hit Democrats and say, Democrats blocked IVF protection. And then flip it. Democrats then created a separate bill that would federally protect access to IVF. And I actually read through the bill. I don't know if there was one part that stood out to me as kind of confusing, and I would have to do like really intense research that I'll be honest, I just don't have the time to do right now. But I read it through, and there was nothing in there that stood out to me as like wackadoodle crazy, other than maybe the idea of federalizing it so intensely in a way that IVF Protection Act didn't. But regardless, instead of putting the Democrats' bill through the traditional process of passing the bill, what the Democrats did, their lead sponsor, her name is Senator Tammy Duckworth, she tried to pass the bill with unanimous consent, meaning only one person could deny this and the whole thing would be shut down. And so she knew that one or two Republicans would vote against it because they're just against IVF altogether, knowing that maybe the rest of the Republican Party, had it gone through the regular process, would have said, absolutely, yeah, well, we'll pass that. And so this ultimately, deciding to put the bill through this way, it gave Democrats the headline that Republicans blocked IVF protection. The truth is, both sides want to protect IVF. They have slightly different ways about going about it. But the truth is, the issue isn't actually that divisive. The divisive part is the political process and the fact that we're in an election year, and so everybody's trying to get the right headlines to tell people, hey, the Republicans or the Democrats, they're not passing IVF protection, blah, 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 blah. You have that, and then you have Jimmy Kimmel's dumbass wife. Those people are separating us, or I should say that person and that process are separating us all way more than we actually are. But that was my research. Let me know if you have really strong feelings about IVF. I don't really want to share my opinions. It doesn't matter that much. I just want to share with you guys the facts. By the way, I have a programming announcement because at the top of the show I was talking about my wedding. We have two new videos out on YouTube, Rumble, X, and Facebook. They come out Friday. They come out Monday, September 30th. And then next Tuesday, like usual, we'll have a regular podcast episode. From there, Wednesday, October 2nd until Monday, October 7th, I'm gone. I'm peacing out. I'm enjoying my wedding weekend. I'm getting a tan. I'm getting my nails done. I'm hanging out with my friends and family. Bye-bye. I'm not going on my honeymoon right away. So I will be back on the podcast October 8th. And we'll get into all the details of my wedding, my favorite parts, etc. Please remember at the top what I asked. If you guys could drop your favorite/best wedding advice, I would really, really appreciate it. I love to read your guys' comments. And if you're a real one and you made it to the end of the show, drop the toilet emoji. It kind of goes without saying why I picked that, so yikes. But have a great weekend. See you back here on Tuesday. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you heard, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and leave a comment about how beautiful, stunning, and funny I am. And if you want more content based in logic, be sure to click over here for more videos and clips of my show. If you have the means to financially support the show, consider purchasing from my merch line, Based Apparel, linked right below. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you back here next time. Bye, friends.